Here they come. So let's get this party started. Phil, you were asking how many we're going to be here. We have over 200 now registered, and yet we show 75 plus all the people in Chris's room, which should be another 30. We're over 100 people today so far. That doesn't include all the people that are still coming in. I know, really pumped about that. So guys, listen, let me start off by welcoming every single one of you. I know you're here on purpose. I mean, you don't stumble into this room accidentally, because this particular topic is probably as timely as anything. I'm hearing about meetings going on almost every day, but I also know there are people that are literally agents quitting the business right now because they are so afraid of what's happening. They're so uninformed as to what to do, and they're feeling scared because they've heard about the fines, the penalties, all the downside, the bad side of this change, right? And today we want to at least help to dispel some of that, give you some of the tools and the things that are going to go on. So welcome to this incredible Expert Partners event. That's our training company. We are excited always to introduce people to it. If you're not familiar with us, we've got coaching and training and events going on. I'll tell you about another event coming up. We do these kinds of events. And by the way, I'm talking about Expert Partners. We do these kinds of events all the time. And what we're looking to do is help you, the agent, succeed at the highest levels. And what I know is that agents sometimes have support structure. Many times they do not. So we want to be that for you. We're always looking for ways to equip, our clients, our graduates, our trainees, our students, our people with the knowledge, skills, mindset, and really many times the mindset. Some of you were here about a month and a half ago when we had Sean Swarner, who's climbed Mount Everest and every other tall peak in the continents, and just an amazing story. We bring stuff like that. We've had Bob Berg here, the Go-Giver, one of my friends. We've had Larry Kendall here. In fact, I'll have news about Larry Kendall coming up before we finish. My name is Don Hobbs, by the way, in case I didn't introduce myself, and I don't think I did. So speaking of Larry Kendall, our next event after this is going to be October 2nd. So mark that date on your calendar. And if you are a fan of Larry Kendall, he's going to be back. So we're going to have two legends. This is a script, by the way. Two legends appearing on stage, this virtual stage, Larry Kendall and Don Hobbs. Wait, that's me. Okay, so I'll be joining in. Larry Kendall will be here. We're going to do a dual event, 2 hours, October 2nd. And that's, by the way, Larry Kendall is one of my favorite people in the whole industry. I met him 35 years ago. Larry is a legend. He's an enormous influence. His book, Ninja Selling, I'm pointing to it because it's considered to be one of my business Bibles. And in real estate specifically, I would say, I think it's the best real estate book ever written. And I don't mean that if you've written a book, I'm sure yours is great too, but I think his is the leader in the charge. So we're going to be announcing more about that. I'm going to give you a chance in just a second to actually get involved in that. But we're going to be talking about how to thrive in the industry and generate that constant flow of business. That's what Larry and I are going to talk about. How do we handle the marketing? How do we handle the conversations? We're going to add on to what Phil's doing today, and all of that's going to be there. So I'm going to just say, Joyce, let's put the QR code up for people while I'm kind of doing the rest of the intro. And guys, we're going to have a special price for you. There is already an early bird special, but because you're here, we're going to give you the early bird before the early bird, and you're going to get a price today of $25. And I'm going to give you the code if you stick around till the end. That's the secret, okay? If you stick around till the end. Otherwise, pay the $39 early registration fee, and we're excited to have you there. Today, we're bringing you this program with Phil Hahn. Scripts for buyers and sellers in the post-settlement era. Has anybody heard there's been a little change in real estate? By the way, in most states, it's already taken hold. It's already taken effect because the states have wanted to get a hold ahead of the law. The law goes into effect the 17th, which I believe is in a couple of days. And so what I want to say is, listen, let's be real. There are agents out there right now having their very best years. But for many, the economic slowdown hasn't been kind. It's a tighter market for them. They came through 2021 going, I'm invincible, and are now discovering maybe not as invincible as they once thought. And we literally, as of this morning, had somebody talking who literally just turned her license in and said, I'm out. This is too much work. This is too hard. And I contend that it's only because She didn't have the right help or the right information. So we want to be that for you. Listen, if you're questioning your career, don't. Let's help you pour in today to what you need to be doing. So you get to decide whether you're going to be a victim of circumstances or whether you're going to be the victor despite what's happening around you. My mentor, Jim Rohn. If you don't know Jim Rohn, look him up. If you do know him, I got a chance to spend many years with him. And I'll tell you, he said, it's not what happens, it's what you do with what happens. It's not what happens that determines the quality of your life, the results that you get. It's not what happens. It's what you do with what happens. So I want to really make sure that you understand that, yes, I understand that there have been changes. The direct result of the DOJ and the NAR screwing this whole thing up. And I don't think that they got what they need for the consumer. I think that we've been doing a great job. But regardless, here's what I know. Change happens. Shift happens. And we're in a place now where we have a choice. We can either change with it, we can learn the change, or we can feel out of it. Listen, the economy's slower. So what? What difference does it make? If your economy is cruising and your economy is awesome, your economy is awesome, what difference does the economy make to you? By the way, I was looking at, we don't watch news in our house. We don't watch news. Allison and I don't watch news. But we have our Amazon, whatever it's called, it sits up on our desk, and there was something about an election. I was like, oh, there's an election year. We're in an election year. Oh my gosh, how about that? So if you think I'm ignorant, I'm pretty ignorant on a lot of things. And one of them is, I know we've got an election coming up. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people, and I'm listening to it on social, I'm listening to it in meetings we're doing. Everybody's all uptight about the election. They're talking about this candidate or that candidate, and what happens if the other one gets in? Oh my God, I'm going to leave the country. Guys, we've made it through every freaking president since the beginning of time. We've made it through all of them. We made it through every economy. There's nobody that's been able to screw it up for the people that are not waiting for somebody else to fix it for them. And Phil, what we have a chance to do today is to help people fix it for themselves, to take charge and make sure that they are on point and on track. So it's not the economy, it's your economy. It's not what's going on with the election. Who cares? Who cares? I know it makes a difference. Philosophically, it makes a difference. Get over it and get on to how can I help more people? How can I help more people, pour into more people? How can I be a bigger force for good for more people? How can I do that? How can I help my clients? How can I help my clients with higher interest rates? How can I help my clients where they're now paying commissions they didn't used to think they were paying, but they've always paid? How can I help my people when we're in a changing market? Listen, there's three kinds of people: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder, what the hell happened? And if you're in the latter group, this is going to be a very tough year for you. But if you're in the former group and saying, let's make it happen, I got the man for you. So I want to introduce you to my friend Phil Hahn. He's here. He's been the master of his craft. I've known him for, I think Phil and I met in the early 2000s or late 1990s. I forget which, but it's been a long time, like 25 years, give or take. Phil didn't become top 1% realtor by following the status quo or sticking to the same old stuff. He did it by recognizing opportunities in change, creating connections, and giving 100%, 110% to his clients every single day. Literally, this man is in the top 0.09% in real estate. He's closed 6,882 transactions. And by the way, that was in 2023 with his team. So if I'm understanding that right, he's totaling over $4.5 billion. Guys, there's plenty of business being done. Look around where the listings taken yesterday that you didn't get, where there's sales being made, contracts being written yesterday that you didn't get. Guess what? Phil has figured out how to get a lot of those. So with over 20 years of experience, he's not only achieved remarkable success, but also mentored and attracted some of the top real estate agents globally. He teaches and trains globally. He's also a devoted family man, love his wife. I love his wife. He loves her more. He's happily married. He's got four amazing, you tell her that, Bill, you tell her that, 4 amazing adult children, 2 wonderful dogs, and he's an innovator in the real estate space. Listen, everybody, welcome, put your hands together. He can't hear you, but he can see you. Phil Hahn, everybody, Phil Hahn.
Don, that was awesome. Thank you. If I can get my screen share back, that would be awesome, please.
Yeah, I'm sure you got it now. There you go. All yours.
There we go. Let's do it. Okay, we're good.
Buddy, thanks for being here. Thank you for being here. I just really appreciate. I know you got places to be. I know that Sometimes he hangs out in Monaco and he hangs out all over the global world. He lives in Canada most of his time. And I'm just grateful that you gave us an hour today, or hour, actually a little over an hour. You may not know that, but you gave us a little more than an hour today. So let's go, man. Let's go.
Don, first of all, I want to thank you and Allison Gaddy and Don Hobbs and the team at the Expert Partners for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be sharing. And Don, yeah, we go back to the early 2000s, back in when you were running your amazing marketing and branding company, and branding and marketing a lot of the top agents across North America. So my goodness, how time flies. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, eh, buddy?
Yeah, exactly.
20
we're in
plus
August,
years.
by the way.
So what's that, buddy?
I said we're in August already. That's a testament to
Right?
how time
Yeah.
flies, right?
Yeah, it is how time flies. So a couple of things, some housekeeping items first. Everybody, this is not a compliance class, okay? So before, implementing any of these strategies or discussions or techniques, do discuss with your local real estate commissions, organizations, associations, and councils. And of course, be compliant with all things EXP and NAR. And talk to your broker teams and your broker operations teams, okay? We're in a new market, and what's compliant in one may not be in another, and vice versa. And so that's very important that you do make sure you check with your local compliance teams before implementing any new strategies because of this changing market, that things are literally changing on a daily basis. I'd hate to see anyone get their knuckles wrapped for just not doing the research or the proper due diligence, okay? That's housekeeping tip number one. And number two, we host a role play clinic every Thursday at 9 a.m. And so we'd love to have you all there. You can reach out to Dawn and Allison for details on that. It's open to everybody from every company. And we'll be dealing with this extensively, representation agreements with buyers and how to work with those buyers. And I'm happy to, first of all, share any scripting you're interested in. You can just reach out to Dawn and Allison and the team, and come out to our role play clinic as well. Your scripting is very, very, very important. And again, one of the blessings that I guess I can share with you is that we've been using buyer rep or buyer representation agreements since 2002. Okay. And how that came to life was my mentor in the business said, well, there's two parts to your real estate business. There's the seller business and there's the buyer business. So you wouldn't market a property without a representation agreement. Now, folks, I use different language. I don't call them contracts. I don't call them, that kind of stuff. I don't ask for signatures. So my dialogue's a bit different because I'm trained in a different way. So if you have any questions on that, you can ask at the end. We're gonna have a Q&A, right, Dawn?
If we have time for it, for sure. Yeah, that's up to you, Phil.
Okay,
I mean, part of it is how long do we go, and then leaving time
you
for
got it, buddy. Yeah. So I learned very quickly that we would get, you wouldn't work with a seller unless you had an okayed representation agreement, right? For usually a 6-month term with the parameters and everything, detailed in the agreement. And he taught me that I would do the same with the buyer business. So very early on, I learned to get 1-year agreements okayed by any buyer that we were working with. Okay, so that's kind of why I'm at the forefront here, and Dawn's asked me to come and share because we've been doing it for over 20 years, and all of our agents that we work with across our different companies are all trained on getting 1-year representation agreements okayed by their clients before moving forward. Okay, and if you treat them and you look at the buyer as a listing client, it's so much easier. And so now this new opportunity and this new market that we're in has really given us the opportunity to exercise those skill sets and to learn about this new market. And Dawn, am I allowed to do any plugs in terms of what we're doing as a company? Sharing how we're cutting, leading the charge on that. Is that okay?
Yeah, I kind of like not to do that. I like to keep this purely agnostic.
Agnostic, gotcha. Okay, buddy. Yeah, no worries. Absolutely, no problem. So I guess the first step, folks, is that you've got to treat your buyers like you treat your sellers, and you're going to give them a consultation of what they can expect from engaging your services. Okay. And so what does that mean? Well, for most of us, we have a listing presentation or a listing strategy, right? So before we bring a property to market, we have a sit down with the seller. Most of the time it's a 2-step process where we'll come in and gather some information on the property. And then we'll, never leave the scene of that first appointment without setting another appointment. Okay, so you never say, I'll get back to you, Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Seller or Mrs. Buyer or Mr. Seller. So we go in and we gather the information and then we set the next appointment. And you want to keep that timeline when setting the second appointment to meet with a client always very, very close to the time of the initial appointment. Okay, the longer that the appointment is out, the greater likelihood of cancellation and attrition. Okay, so keep that in mind, folks. Very tight appointment time next to the first appointment. And so with our buyers, what we like to do is we'll have that initial meeting. Now, it might be a two-step presentation, right? It might be a situation where you've got an online lead and you're talking to them and you're, you've shared some information, and then you're going to set the next appointment, which will be either an in-person or via Zoom, to go through your strategy in detail. So that's basically, in a nutshell, one of the biggest pivots is you've got to treat your buyers like you treat your sellers now. Okay, and that means your buyer strategy, your buyer representation agreement. I like to coach that we use a 1-year buyer term on our agreement. Okay, a 1-year term. And the reason I do that is because buyers generally take more time than sellers do, right? Sellers usually, the average days on market, say it's less than 60 in North America right now. So a 6-month term on a listing agreement is safe. But I usually like to coach and to consult to say a 1-year term on your buyer representation agreement. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. Okay. All right. So what are our key responsibilities? Well, obviously, we're going to identify desirable types of properties to acquire. Okay, so that's a key thing, right? Most of us have been taught over the last several years to meet with a buyer. Hopefully we get an okayed representation agreement. If we don't, that's okay. We still take them out and we kind of court them and, try to win them over with our charisma and showing them some properties and developing some rapport and a relationship. What I like to do and what I like to coach to is, instead of meeting with the client and putting them on an auto drip campaign right away, meet with the client. You're going to get their okay on the representation agreement for that 1-year term, as I said, and then book an appointment to see properties that meet their home buying criteria. And so in your consultation and qualification, what does that look like? Well, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, are you looking for a single family home or a townhome? Okay, we're looking for a single. Okay. Are you looking for a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom? Oh, we're looking for a 3-bedroom. Okay, that's great. How many bathrooms did you want? Are 3 bathrooms okay, or 2 okay, or would you prefer 4? Right, so take down all their needs, then go back and select the properties, usually 6 to 12, and schedule an appointment to meet them, to show them the properties versus just emailing them properties. What happens is that buying a property, folks, is a very tactile, emotional experience. You've got to touch it, smell it, feel it. Even during COVID, even during times with remote buyers and such, as we all know as consummate professionals on this call, sure, we've sold transactions without the buyer ever seeing the home. Absolutely, we have. But that's the exception more so than the norm. So instead of putting the client on a drip campaign and then just seeing which properties they like or didn't like, or, because you can see how many times they've gone back to a certain listing, et cetera, once you've had the representation agreement okayed, schedule the appointment to go and take a look at their potential new homes. Okay. And what that does is it creates much more certainty, and it really isolates the decision-making process versus thinking that there's 18,000 properties that meet my criteria in the computer. Now you've got 6 to 12 that actually meet that criteria, and you're getting them involved in the process. Okay. So what I like to do after showing the first property, when I go through the home, by the way, I will open the property up and we'll turn all the lights on if they aren't on already, and make sure everything's open. And we'll just casually follow the buyers through the property. Okay. And we'll watch, listen to the conversation. We'll be there with them, answer any questions that they may have, but we're not going to be going through the living room saying, this is the living room. Isn't it lovely? Look at the paint choices they've taken. This is the backyard. Don't you love the swing set? Isn't it great? Wouldn't Jenny and Molly just love playing on the swings? We don't do that. We shut up and sell. So we follow the buyers through the property during the process. And when you hear them ask questions like, that's a really nice swing set, then what I would say is, well, let me see if we can get it included. If we could get the swing set included, you'd want the home, wouldn't you? And that's a buying signal. Whenever people start talking about features of the property that they like, ask it with a rhetorical question. Ask them, hey, if we could get the swing set included, you'd want the home, wouldn't you? If they say something like, oh, you know, we really like this home, but it said it's an extended closing, and they're looking for a 30-day or a 60-day time frame, you can say, hey, would you like to buy this home today if you could get it within a 30 or 60-day closing? Okay. So again, words are extremely, extremely powerful. Some of the best sales trainers, obviously, Don spoke of Ninja Selling, fantastic book. Tom Hopkins, old school, but timeless. Brian Tracy, old school, but timeless. Zig Ziglar, old school, but absolutely timeless as well. And what we know is that those strategies taught from the masters are as effective and as good today and more relevant today as ever before. Okay. So again, that's a little part of the strategy. So locating properties available to view and consider. So again, instead of putting the buyers on drip campaigns and automatic email alerts, book the appointment to go preview the properties together. It's unbelievable what happens. In that process, what we do is we'll usually have, we'll print out the client sheet from the MLS system so that the client has a sheet with details they can take or information they can have on the property. And then we'll have our own sheet as well. Okay, so for the 6 to 12 previews or properties that we'll be previewing during the buyer tour, we'll each have our own sheets. At the end of the first property, what I like to say and what we train is that, so what are your thoughts on this property, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer? On a scale of 1 to 10, where would this one rank? And they say, well, we actually quite like it. It's nice. The location is nice. It's in a cul-de-sac. It's within the catchment area of the schools we're looking for. So, you know, I think this one's an 8. And then I'll say, well, folks, that's great. So is it fair to say then that this would be the #1 property at this point in time? And then they'll say, yeah, I think that's fair to say, right? And if they don't like it, they'll tell you, they'll say, no, we don't, this is not a match. So if they say it is, then what you do is you write the #1 on the sheet in front of them and you circle it because that's now the first property they've seen and it's their #1 choice. Okay. Then we'll move to the next property. And when we get to the next home, we'll repeat the process. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, sorry, what were your thoughts of this property? Do you prefer this one to the first one? Or is this one, or is the first one still the preference? And they'll say, actually, we prefer this one. Yeah, this one's bigger. We prefer the paint choices and selections. We really like the fact that it has additional accommodation as well. And this one we feel suits our needs. We're not going to have to invest as much money. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that's fantastic. So what do? I put a #1 on that second property. And folks, it's very visual. You do that in front of the prospect, okay? Put the #1. And then on the first sheet, I put a big X, okay? Big X. So you strike out the property and you're helping them in the consultation and qualification and with the decision-making process throughout your buyer tour. Then we get to the third property, same process, go through, turn the lights on, walk them through, answer any questions. When we're done the showing, folks, of the 3 properties we've seen thus far, we know #1's out of the equation. How does this property rank between the second one we just saw and this one? What would you say? What would be your preference? And so they say, you know what? Yeah, this one's okay, but #2 was definitely our favorite. Okay, that's great, folks. Boom, big X on that sheet in front of them. Okay, so you're doing the X, you're striking it out, you're eliminating that property. So now it's out of mind, okay? Fourth property comes, obviously, same thing happens again. We take them through the property, end of the showing. Okay, folks, so we know that the first and third property are, not contenders. How does this rank versus the second property? You know what, Phil? We really like the second home. Okay, that's great. Well, we've got 2 more to see. And when we're done those 2, we can discuss it further. So we take them back now to the 5th property, same process. At the end of the 5th showing, okay, folks, what did you think of this home versus the second property? Oh my goodness, this one is amazing. We love it. It checks all the boxes. Oh, really? Okay, good to know. Okay. And you're sure, like this, you're really happy with the catchment. You're happy with the area. It's close to your church. It's on a cul-de-sac like you wanted. It's got the additional income. Yeah, no, we really like it. Okay, fantastic. So then it's fair to say we can discount the second property, then we can eliminate that from the selection. Yeah, it's fair to say. Great, folks. XX, okay? We have one property left. Go to the sixth property. Knock, knock, go in, turn the lights on, walk through. Yeah, we're not feeling it, Phil. You know what? We really like that fifth property. Okay, fantastic. Let's just, forget about this one. We strike out the sixth in front of them again. Folks, let me call and see, and this is very key because in your buyer window, usually schedule a 1 hour to 1.5 hour window if you can when showing the properties. That way, if there's something that hit their hot button, you can go back to that property, okay? So I would say after the sixth property, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, why don't we go and take a look at that fifth property, the second last property we just saw, the one that's number 1 on the list, so you can take a better in-depth look. And 9 times out of 10, if they like it, they're going to say, yeah, let's do it. So we go back to the property and then they do a good hard look. And we obviously will, if we're within the time frame, it's okay, we'll just go back. But if we're not, we'll ask for the to book a second appointment with the showing with the listing agent as well in their office. Again, this is not a compliance class, so make sure you're compliant within your local markets, right? And so after returning to that fifth property and we're walking through it, I would say, so folks, what would be the best completion date for you? Would a 30-day completion be good, or would 90-day closing be better? And if they say, oh, we'd prefer, 60, okay, then you write that down. Okay, 60 days, that's great. Okay, excellent. And how about the window coverings? I know they wanted to keep some of them. Did you want us to include those window coverings, all of them? I think they complement the home well. Are you okay with them being excluded? No, I think we'd want them all included. Okay, that's great. And then you take a mental note, you write the note down in front of them. So window coverings, okay. And folks, for your initial investment in this home, I know we talked about that most of our clients tend to put a 10% initial investment on their properties. Were we thinking about the same here for this one as well for you? Or would you want to even increase it to 15%? No, Phil, we're going to keep it at 10% as an initial investment. Okay, that's great. So you write it down again. And folks, as you know, these appliances, they're sub-zeros, they're quite high end, and they had them excluded on the listing. Now, I'm not saying I can, but if we could have those included in our proposal of ownership, that would be a real win for you, wouldn't it? Oh, yes, that would. They're gorgeous. Okay, why don't we include those as well, folks, okay? And then I write it down. And then I would say, okay, folks, so let's go back and let's write up the proposal of ownership with the terms and everything you're looking for with that 60-day completion and our 10% initial investment and take it from there. And so I'm getting into a little bit of the structure in terms of how to deal with the buyer, because I think it's very important, and also how to get them into that buying mode. Okay, so that's about locating and properties and available to view and consider. And again, we cover this in our role play sessions every Thursday. So preliminary investigation, timely information gathering. So obviously these are some of our responsibilities that we have to bring to the table when representing buyers, and this is one of our obligations. Viewing properties and providing guidance and advice. Okay, so folks, just so you know, what I'm sharing with you is our VIP buyer presentation that we do. It's a 15-slide segment, and it's also somewhat tweaked for this presentation with our new market that we're in as well. Okay. So viewing properties and providing the advice and guidance. Well, Don, do you want to be my my client here for a bit?
Sure, happy to be a client.
Okay,
I'd buy
fantastic.
from you.
Yeah, oh, thanks, but I'd buy from you. I did buy from you. I spent a lot of money with you. Awesome. So Don, what did you think of that last home that we just saw?
We liked it a lot. It's got everything we need.
Yeah, okay. And so is it fair to say that if we could secure this home, within a reasonable price point and within those dates that you're looking for, you'd want to move ahead with a proposal of ownership, right, Don?
Babe? Yeah. Boss says, yeah, I agree. I'm all in.
The boss says, okay, well, we'll make sure that we include Allison as well, of course. And so for your initial investment, Dawn, did you want to stick with the 10% initial investment, or, because we may be in competition on this property, did you want to increase that to maybe 15 or 20%?
I prefer not to put any more than we have to, but is it going to make us more competitive?
I think it would, Dawn, and it would be a definite sign of good faith and commitment on our part. Yeah.
Okay, well then let's go with I think we can swing 20%.
Okay, great. So that'll be a $200,000 initial investment then on your home. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, Don. Okay, good. So you see how I'm leading the situation, right? Leading the situation. Folks, great salespeople are powerfully persuasive, but they're not manipulators. I'm not going to manipulate Don. I'm going to be powerfully persuasive and help him in his decision-making process and make sure that he's making a decision that is in the best interest of himself and his family moving forward. But I'm not going to slam him into a property. Okay. Otherwise, you're just a con person or a con man, and you're a manipulator. And that's not what this is about. So when you see these skills and these conversations, how that's going, it's about being powerfully persuasive and as a fiduciary, putting Don and Allison's needs first to help them get the best home possible in the shortest amount of time frame with the least amount of hassle for the least amount of money. Does that make sense, Don?
It does, Phil. I'm going to do an outtake, and I want to add to what you just said. Okay.
Let's do it,
So,
buddy.
guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, what I would say to add to what Phil just said, and he said it well, is I believe our job is to help them do what they already want to do. Our job is to get out of the way and help them do what they already want to do. They'll talk themselves out of it. They'll go a lot of gyrations in their brain because they're creating pictures and fear and all kinds of stuff. What they want to do is buy a home. That's why they're out looking. That's why they're with you. That's why they're in this situation. So remember, we're not there to help them do what we think is right. We're there to help them do what they want to do. That makes sense?
Love it. Love it. As a facilitator to the transaction, effectively.
Totally.
Yeah, love it. So, and again, so selecting the right property on which to make an offer. So we've gone through that process in terms of the selection, right? And folks, if you do the consultation, and when you do the consultation and qualification up front, and Don, let's give them an example of kind of what that would look like, okay?
Sure.
So Don, I know you're relocating from Frisco to Juneau, Alaska, and that's great. We're going to be really excited to have you here in Juneau. What were you looking for in your new home? Were you looking for a single family home, Don? Or were you looking
single
for
family home. Single family home. In fact, I'd prefer one level if at all possible, because my creaky old bones don't like to go upstairs.
I appreciate that, a one level dwelling. Okay. And how many bedrooms did you want in the home, Don?
5.
5 bedrooms. Okay. Okay. And how many bathrooms were you thinking of?
At least 4, but I'd prefer kind of almost ensuite kind of things. And
Ensuite, yeah.
yeah, we like to have
Okay.
guests.
Okay. And Don, in Juneau, we have additional accommodation, which is quite common, where there'll actually be a suite within the home that you can have for in-laws or a caretaker or childcare provider, as well as for additional income. Is that something that's important to you, Don?
I hadn't thought about it, but it sounds kind of interesting. I would like to maybe include that in our thoughts.
Okay, it's fair that to say that'd be something you'd explore then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay.
You said
then
extra income. That grabbed my attention. The extra income grabbed my attention.
Oh yeah, no, and for sure, because of the booming economy in Juneau, there's a lot of people moving here. So, and then Don, how many cars, garage space did you want? How many garages did you want for your cars?
3. 3.
3. Okay. But you wouldn't discount something with 4, would you?
No, bigger is better. Smaller is not good.
Okay. And what were your minimum property size requirements, Don? Were you thinking an acre up to 2 or even more?
No, I don't need a lot of space. It just means more yard work. So, something that is reasonable for the size house. I'm in Frisco, Texas, so we don't have big backyards. I'm kind of used to smaller. So.
Right. Okay. So say half an acre would suffice. Is that fair to say?
More than that.
Okay, half an acre. Great. Okay. And then, I know your home, you were telling me that you have in Frisco was fairly new. You had it built and it was pretty high end and stuff. What age pedigree were you thinking for your new home? Like say within the last 10 years or 15 years or even newer, what would work best for you in that regard?
I'd say within 5, no more than 10. We don't want to have to do a lot of stuff to it.
Okay. And what was your budget, Don, for your new home to invest in? What were you thinking?
196,000 was what we're. No, I'm kidding, Phil. Just seeing if anybody's listening. I don't know Juneau, but I'm gonna say $800,000.
800,000. Okay, that will buy you a lot actually here. And you were thinking of spending up to?
In that range, 900 at the most, I would say.
To 900, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you know what, Don, I've got a home that's gonna, really match your needs here and criteria. So I'd love to take you out and look at it. I've actually got several as well. So when would be a good time for us to go take a look at them? Would this afternoon be okay, or maybe Saturday?
Saturday would be way better.
Okay, Saturday morning, okay, or afternoon better?
Yeah. No, afternoon.
Okay,
We
okay,
like
awesome.
our beauty sleep. It's how I stay
I
so young.
appreciate that, and you're pretty handsome, Don. So I can see it's working well for you. So did you want a 1 hour, sorry, a 1 o'clock appointment time, or is 2 o'clock?
Yeah, it's
better
great.
for you?
Let's do it. 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Okay, perfect. So that's the selecting the right property on which to make an offer and the consultation qualification, right? So by asking the questions up front and qualifying extensively, it really, really limits the amount of properties you actually have to take the client through. Does that make sense? Okay. So another thing that we do, Don, and team, is we will actually, rather than asking how much they're looking to spend, Don, what are you currently investing in your home right now on a monthly basis?
$6,000 a month.
6,000 a month. Okay. And is that plus taxes and utilities, Don?
That's yes.
Okay, plus taxes. Okay. And for your new home, were you thinking of keeping that monthly investment around the same price range?
Yep.
Okay. So it's fair to say if we could get you something in that $6,000 a month price point plus utilities and taxes, that would be a win for you?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. So folks, most of us don't have 900,000 in cash, 2 million, 3 million, whatever, but we have the $600,000 monthly investment for our property. We have the $3,000 monthly investment. So in the consultation qualification process, if we nail down what they're spending on a monthly basis, it's very easy to help during the showing of the properties and the selection and say, okay, well, these properties based on your price point and what you're looking for fall into that $6,000 a month category. So it's a different way to sell it, but I will tell you, most people buy the payment. They don't buy the house amount. Got it? And there's different ways to, obviously, different ways to structure mortgages and such. So keep that in mind rather than always looking at the global amount. Find out what they're paying, what they're comfortable paying, and finding homes that meet that criteria based on getting them their pre-qualification with your lender or them having it already. So, boom. Preparing a legally binding contract to purchase and sale. So, folks, I do not use the word binding contract to purchase and sale. We like to use the word the agreement, the paperwork, the proposal of ownership. It's much less legalese sounding. It's much more friendly, and it has a much more positive connotation to it. So at all points in time, I would really encourage you to use the word proposal of ownership or agreement or the paperwork. Okay, and then never asking for a signature, but asking them to okay the paperwork, get their authorization on the paperwork, get their approval on the paperwork. Okay. Negotiate favorable terms and conditions. So it's very important that you know your market stats, your sold to ask ratios when working with buyers in your local community, what the average days on market is, et cetera, so that when you're educating your clients, your buyer clients, that they know, okay, folks, so the average sold to ask ratio in Frisco right now is 99.2%. So what that means is that for homes that are properly priced, they sell on average $99,200, say, for every $100,000 asking. So $999,200 for $1 million property. And demonstrate that by using your MLS stats so that when creating the proposal of ownership or / offer or contract, you have the right data so that the client is making their proposal and offer with the right stats and numbers in mind, right? Okay. And that helps you a lot by leveraging that market data as well as the average days on market. So if you're in Frisco and your average days on market right now is 32.6, but you've got a property that's, 110 days on market, well, you're going to be able to be much more aggressive because clearly it's been priced improperly and that's why it's sitting. Okay. And you can use that to leverage by educating your client by showing your local MLS stats in terms of what's happening in your respective markets. So one of your value adds, obviously, in representing buyers and sellers, and specifically buyers in this case, is leveraging your relationships with your lenders, right? So Mr. and Don, so do you have a mortgage in place right now?
I do.
Mm. Okay, fantastic. Would it be okay if I referred you to one of our mortgage partners? They can get you access to mortgage investment companies, real estate investment trusts, chartered banks, trust companies, and credit unions. Literally have them fighting for your business, and it will cost you nothing. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Great.
Sorry,
Okay.
Dustin.
So yeah, I'll have Jenny give you a call when we're done this conversation. Okay. So again, folks, as a fiduciary, you want to help your clients in assisting the best financing terms possible. Now, if you call a client and you're dealing with a client and they say, yeah, we have a lovely ranch outside of Frisco. It's about 15 acres and it's clear title. We think it's worth about 5 to 6 million. You can offer them that for sure, but chances are they're qualified and they'll have the ability to purchase their next home. But it also helps you save time and money and your resources by working with potential prospects that aren't qualified. So one of our key things is that we generally don't work with buyers until we have a pre-qualification letter from their lender or from one of our lending sources that we referred them to as well. Okay, so that way, again, to better conserve your time and also so that they can give a much stronger proposal of ownership / offer, knowing exactly they have how much they have to spend. Okay. And obviously assisting in arranging property inspections and other needed services. So we're going to help with all that. Now, folks, we all have our inspection teams, our sewage inspection, our water treatment, our this or that, formaldehyde, UV, mold, you name it, you got it. So as a fiduciary and when representing buyers, part of your value proposition is bringing all of these relationships and these teammates that you have to the table to assist your purchasers moving forward with their proposals of ownership and throughout their due diligence phase in their offer and their contract. Okay. So again, you want to have a team in place. If you don't already have one, then go out and form those relationships so that you're bringing that value. And that's part of your representation strategy, is that you've got everyone in your network there that's going to help them during their due diligence period. Okay. And obviously in the completion and possession process. So again, from your title companies to your attorneys and lawyers and escrow and closing and all that stuff, you've got a great team that you can refer them to if they're not working with anyone, that will help them and get them the best rates possible, best terms, save them the most amount of money, and ensure a completely smooth and transparent process throughout. Okay. And that's part of your value proposition as a fiduciary when representing your buyer clients. Okay. And our guarantee to you when you're working with us is you can cancel anytime if you're not completely satisfied with your services promised. All we ask is you to provide us with feedback to help us improve, okay, if that's the case. Now, there's a caveat to this, and here it is. Oh, sorry, I'll go to this slide here. So if you purchase a property with another agent that we introduced to you, we're still entitled to our compensation. So what that means is that if they've seen a property with you, but they decide to go and try to buy it from the listing agent, or they use another agent, that you're still entitled to be remunerated. Now, folks, isn't that fair? We're just asking that we're paid for the work we've done. Okay. And so that's usually, a non-issue. And bing, bada boom, bada bing, the $10 billion slide. So this is how we're dealing now with proposal of ownerships or contracts or offers. So when we're putting the buyer's offer together, the seller is to credit the buyer XXX at close of escrow to satisfy the buyer's contractual agreement with the buyer's broker. And we're putting it right in the proposal of ownership or the offer. Okay. And it's really as simple as that, is that we're asking for the business right up front. Okay. So that they know full well that we're going to be asking for the seller to cooperate. They're not cooperating with their fees. They're not advertising cooperating fees. And as we know, fees are negotiable. So you charge whatever your value is and you believe your value. I'm a great believer, though, that fee is only an issue in the absence of value, and that we all bring so much value to the table that, our fee becomes negligible because, number one, we know that our sold to ask ratio is X. We know that our average days on market is X. And if you can clearly demonstrate that to your buyer clients, the fee really is a non-issue. Okay. So I would encourage everybody to incorporate this. Seller to credit buyer XXX at close of escrow to satisfy buyer's contractual agreement with buyer's broker in their contract. Don, anything to share on that?
No, I like this. I'm gonna want to jump to a different place to get to where we start before all this, but I want to No, I think this is brilliant because this is where a lot of people are really stressing out right now is if I haven't had the conversation about what my, my commission is, my fee is for my buyer's brokerage, then this is their only place. This is like I'm going to make it part of the agreement, right?
Yeah.
So I want
to
handle this. And I want to go back and also handle
you got it, buddy. And so so why that sorry, I jumped to this slide because I wanted to get to the next slide, but in essence, when you're done going through your strategy, which is right here, our guarantee to you, and then I would put my hand out and say, so our representation agreement, folks, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is a 1-year term, and our fee for service is XXX. And we will be, you'll be responsible for that fee. However, we will negotiate that fee on your behalf with the sellers. Okay. And it's really simple.
Let's do that again. Let's do that again. Cause I think this is where people are, if they're freaking because they don't know what to say there.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally understand. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, our fee for service is XXX, and you are responsible for that fee. However, we will negotiate that fee when representing you with the sellers. We will negotiate in the contract with whoever's selling their property, whether it be a for sale by owner, a property that's expired, a property that's listed on some other discount service or what have you. And again, we've clearly demonstrated that and again, this is where knowing your sold to ask ratio in terms of your local market and what your company's sold to ask ratio. Now, folks, listen, if you're new to the industry and you don't have, stats yet to support you, leverage your company's track record. Okay. If you're with company A, B, C, D, leverage their track record. So if your company's sold to ask ratio is 99.9%, but the industry average is when working with buyers, say it's 96%, but industry average when working with buyers is 99.
Can you say that again?
What's that?
Nothing. It's my Alexa talking to you.
That's hilarious. Hey, Alexa. So it's knowing your numbers, your sold to ask ratios, and your average days on markets. But again, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, our fee is XXX, and we will negotiate that in the proposal of ownership / contract with the seller's agent on your behalf. Okay. And folks, I have sold hundreds and hundreds of properties over the years that were not listed, that there wasn't a seller, there was not a commission, it wasn't even for sale, and I would negotiate for the seller to pay us. Okay, so think about that. It's just, all it is really a decoupling. And Don, I love how you said that. That was your word, and that was very powerful this week. A decoupling of the commission. That's all it is. And again, fees are negotiable, and this is not a compliance class, folks, because we're in an ever-changing market. But if you put your fee in the buyer representation agreement and you explain to the buyers that you're going to be negotiating that fee with the seller on their behalf, it really becomes a non-issue. And if you demonstrated the value up front by introducing them to your lending team, introducing them to your partners that'll help with inspections, et cetera, escrow, title, et cetera, everything, it really becomes a non-issue. And if you're new to the industry and you don't have the stats, you can leverage your company's stats, because we all come from companies that have, sold real estate. I mean, if you're new to the industry and you're in a company that's new to the industry, then you may want to shake your head, but otherwise, we've got stats that we can leverage. So, and so sorry, I skipped ahead to that step, but I was just going through, that last slide, kind of XXX, and it's really the piece of it, though. It's putting it on. It's putting it on the.
Can I ask you? Can I go back to? I want to go back to your, and I know there probably will be other questions, and I'm not sure where you want to go from here, but. While we're in this, and you just showed the other slide with the guarantee, today risk reversal is a big deal. Taking the risk out of it for people, it's a big part of what makes it scary for the buyer, right? The scariness of it is, I don't know what I'm paying for. So I want to talk about two things. One is, how do I build in value, but also how do I relieve the pressure with a guarantee? And I'm looking at your words here. You can cancel anytime if you're not completely satisfied. Love to know what the small print is. Love to know what that looks like. And is that really the words? And, what does that do for you? And I guess before you answer any of that, I'll give you time to think about it. How many of you would let a seller out of a listing agreement if they didn't want to list with you anymore? How many would do that? And raise your hands if you would let a seller out of an agreement that they no longer want to be in. We want to take the house off the market. We don't want to be in a listing agreement with you anymore. Okay. So a lot of hands went up. So I want to ask you the second part. When do you tell them that? And my best guess is, what's that? Go ahead, Phil.
Are you asking me that question, or is it rhetorical?
No, I was gonna. It's kind of rhetorical, and here's what I'm gonna guess. I'm guessing most of you do it as a sales tactic when you're face to face with a client. So remember that I'm a marketer guy, so I always think in terms of how do you offer something like that in advance in marketing that makes people feel more comfortable calling you, because you can in fact guarantee, and you would have done it anyway. Okay, then I want to go to part two. How many of you would let anybody out of a buyer agreement that Phil's teaching us and talking about? Would let them out of a buyer agreement if they didn't want to be in a buyer agreement with you anymore? How many would do that? Raise your hands. Okay, and for those of you that are stuck going, no, I'm not going to do that, I think you're battling a battle you don't want. But what I would say is, if you'd already let them out, let them know that you'd let them out. So Phil, back to you. Sorry.
Well, Don, and you know, I love the relationship analogy. Are you going to stay in a relationship that someone doesn't want to be with you?
No.
Abundance, not scarcity, right? So part of our easy exit guarantees is that we are accountable to the service and the value proposition that we're bringing to the table. And folks, I'll tell you, 99% of the time, if someone wants to cancel, it's usually because we've dropped the ball, and it's usually a lack of communication. Most of the time, people are dissatisfied because of lack of communication. There are very few that, you know, are so unethical that they'll want to cancel because they want to, you know, sidestep you. And that's what that protection is in there for. You'll notice on this slide right here, if you purchase property with another agent that we introduce you to, we're still entitled to compensation. Okay, so we're still going to get paid. Okay.
Love it. Yep. So Phil, at the beginning of the process, and I see Claudia, you've got your hand up, and I'm going to hold up just for a couple more minutes, but keep your hand up. What I want to do too is figure out, like, is there, so I'm meeting a client, and let's pick a scenario. I found a client at an open house. I mean, we were talking in a training this morning, and there were people saying one of the most useful ways of getting leads, clients, is open houses. And if I'm holding an open house for one of my listings, and I've got buyers potentially coming through, some are unrepresented, which, by the way, I'd love to have you talk about that language, the unrepresented, assuming you've got language around that, unrepresented, and could become clients of ours. How would you start a relationship? How would you start that presentation? And it may not be on that day, but how would you get to the relationship that you'd like to have with this person that leads to all the things you've just taught us?
Let's do it. You're in an open house right now, okay? And you just walked in on my open houses, okay?
Perfect.
Hey, I'm Phil.
Hey, I'm Don.
Welcome. Hey, Don, how are you?
I'm good.
Hey, good.
This is my beautiful bride. This is my beautiful wife, Allison.
Hey, Allison, how are you?
In my imagination.
Doesn't talk much, eh, Don?
Hardly at all.
Yeah, you got it. So, Don, can I get you to sign in just on our tablet here, just your phone number and your email address, please?
I'm not really wild about giving that out.
I appreciate that, but Don, is it fair to say that if I was holding your home open, would you want people coming in off the street that weren't willing to give their information?
Good point. Okay, all right. Here's my
We're just here to protect the security and the contents, you know, of our clients. Is that okay?
Yes, it's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Thanks
just
for
go
explaining
ahead
that.
and okay this. Yeah, no problem.
Makes
no
sense.
problem. And so, Don, are you currently investing in your home, or do you rent?
We own.
You own. Okay, phenomenal. And where's your home located?
Frisco, Texas.
Oh, in Frisco. Okay. And did you want to sell first, or did you want to buy a home first?
We can buy without selling.
Okay. And are you planning on keeping your existing home as a rental or investment
We
property?
haven't decided, but probably I'd like to.
Okay. Well, I'd love to offer you a complimentary market evaluation on that property, Don. I can give you tips on what to do and what not to do to sell for the most amount of money. It's free of charge and obligates you to nothing. Is that okay?
Yeah, actually, we'd be interested in that.
Okay, well, I could come by later on this afternoon after the open house, or would Monday afternoon be better for you?
No, today is great. We're kind of in real estate mode. Let's do it.
Ah, I love it. Okay, so how's 4:30 or would 5:30 be better?
Later is better.
Okay, so say 5:30. That's great. Well, listen, take a walk through the home, and if you have any questions, I'll be here. Okay. So then Dawn and Allison walk through the home. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. They're all happy. Folks, give them coffee. Okay. You're getting all kinds of sales hacks here today, folks. Listen, I want to drop some gold. Okay. I want to drop some gold. I want you to leave here to say, my goodness, I got some stuff that I can take to the market and make some money. All right. So give them coffee. All right. And give it to them in a ceramic mug. Never give paper cups. Why do we give ceramic mugs? Because they can't leave. They got to finish the coffee. So what does it do? It slows them down so that they got to get into dialogue with you. Okay. Ceramic, hot, and make sure it's really hot so that it takes time to cool down. So it slows them down. All right. All right. Okay. So I would give Dawn some coffee with a nice hot mug, and Allison some coffee or tea or whatever you've got, ideally super hot beverages and in mugs that they can't leave with. Okay. So you go through the house and then you come back and you're still drinking your coffee and lingering in the kitchen, and then we're talking. So, so Dawn, what do you think of the property?
We like it. We like it. This could be
fantastic.
something that's possible.
Yeah, phenomenal. What kind of a completion date are you looking for? 30 or 60 days?
For moving,
Yeah,
60, I think is fine.
60 days. Okay, great.
Actually, we could be flexible. We've got the cash. We
flexible.
can move between 30 and 60 days.
Great. Yeah, no, I know our clients have some flexibility there, so that's great. That's great. That's great. And so you said you were thinking of maybe keeping your home, or you're not sure yet?
We're not sure yet, but I think we're going to try and keep it.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, we'll be able to go through that in detail when I see you today at 5:30 anyway. So anyway, Dawn, thanks for coming in. Boom, boom, boom. And then I would just basically let them head out because we already have a booked appointment. And then Dawn, so what's the scenario we're going for now? We're going to go to where we get you closed on a buyer's agency agreement, or
Yes.
how I broach that at the beginning?
Yep. Would love that.
Okay. So now I'm coming to your house. It's 5:30, knock, 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 walk through the door. When Dawn takes me through the house, now this is another hack. As he takes me through the house, I'm going to compliment him on anything lovely that's nice that they've done, i.e. new paint, beautiful quartz countertops, lovely appliances, lovely floors. And I'm going to gently touch any blemish, okay? And I'm not going to say anything negative, but if there's a crack in the wall, I'll just rub my hand over it. If there's a chip in the floor, I'll just touch it briefly. If there's a chip in the granite or the quartz, I'll touch it. And what that does is it helps them with the reduction to the ridiculous, because the seller's always going to have the impression that their home is the absolute best thing in the world. And by complimenting them on all their amazing choices and design, that's great. But by touching those slight blemishes, it brings them back to reality a bit. Got it? So it's an NLP little thing, neuro-linguistic programming. For those of you that don't know what that means, Google it. It's a cool thing to learn. I love it. And just gently touch those blemishes and go through the house. And then when you're done, come back to the kitchen table. And so Dawn, you said you and Allison really like that home that you saw today. Is that still the consensus?
Yeah, we might be interested in having one more look-see at some other places, because we stopped after we saw you.
Yeah.
But there are some places that were of interest to us outside of that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, Dawn, listen, I'd love to, take a bit of time and go through our strategy in terms of how it is that when you work with our team, you can get the most home possible for the least amount of money with the least amount of hassle in the least amount of time, and also secure the best financing and inspection terms and all that. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we'll go through that. That'll take us about 15, 20 minutes. Okay. And then that's how I would open into going through this presentation that I've shared with you on the screen. Okay. Do you want me to go through the whole thing, or no? Because we've just done it, right?
Yeah, no, I think we've just done it. I just wanted to look at where the points are that we're talking about. So again, getting to the discovery that there's a relationship between us and I'm serving you, right? And again,
That's right.
maybe a conversation around this, and I certainly have my thoughts around it, but you're the genius today and the expert today, and I want to make sure that we get squeeze every last thing out of your brain.
I wouldn't go
'cause you're
that
so
far,
smart.
Don. I just work hard.
Okay, well, so again, how do we talk about is there something that you do with the thought of them being unrepresented? Do you put any kind of contrast to unrepresented and what it's like to be represented? Do you have any language around that?
Yeah. So Don, you know, when you go to court,
Yeah, I
yeah,
try and stay out of court,
and you
but
know
yeah.
how the defendant or I mean, it's not somewhere we like to go, but you know how the defendant usually has their attorney and then the plaintiff has their attorney, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, real estate's very similar to that. Okay. So if you were to go to court, Don, would you use the same attorney as the defendant, or would you engage your own attorney?
Oh, I would definitely have my own attorney.
Yeah, exactly. And so for us in the real estate process, it's very much the same. And so this representation agreement and our strategy that I've just covered with you basically engages me as your, plaintiff's attorney or defendant's attorney, call it. And so that we'll be representing your needs exclusively in our written representation agreement. Does that make sense, Don?
Actually, it does.
Yeah. And when you take a look at the sellers out there and the signs, when you see a for sale sign on a property, for instance, where we met today, we've been engaged by that client to represent them, right? Okay. So very much like now, you'll be engaging me to represent your interests to buy a home as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And so none of our services will cost you a fee. Will cost you a penny. Now, here's the cool thing you can spin on this. You can actually say none of our services will cost you a penny. Have your fee in there because we will negotiate our terms with the seller and the seller's agent on your behalf. Okay? Does that make sense, Don?
Mm-hmm. It does.
Okay. And it's really as simple as that. Now, again, folks, we're in a changing market here, but listen, we got to ramp it up and we got to get up to speed here. And by educating the client, letting them know that you're going to negotiate that fee, whatever it is, because fees are negotiable. However, fee is only an issue in the absence of value. So the more value you demonstrate, the stronger fee you can have, right? Remember, when you're going to court, do you choose the least expensive lawyer or the lawyer that wins all the time with a proven track record?
Hey, I know we had a hand up earlier, but I want to hit this question with the Yvette. She says, isn't that sticky to promise the buyer won't pay, assuming the seller will pay?
Well, it's on a case-by-case basis. So good question. But if you've done your work properly and you're dealing with the seller, with the seller's agent, you have it disclosed at the beginning of the proposal of ownership when you send it off, it's, it becomes a negotiating point, right? So it is sticky, but as long as you're transparent and clear in it, then again, it's on a case-by-case basis, right? And again, we're in a new market, folks, right? This is a completely new territory, and this is a new game, but this is the game we've been playing for 20 years successfully that we haven't had challenges with. That's what I can share with you, is that I've got 20 years of doing this with our teams and getting paid by the sellers 99% of the time. So.
Perfect. And so we go back to the fact that we've got a fee. The fee for my services is, so that's in your agreement. It's part of the conversation that you had.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
That's what this is. And the good news is you may not have, you aren't probably going to pay for that anyway, because we're going to include that in our
proposal of ownership.
Right.
That's correct, which is right here. And this came directly, oh goodness, hold on. Right here. Seller to credit the buyer XXX at close of escrow to satisfy buyer's contractual agreement with buyer's broker. And that's what we're putting right in the agreement. Okay, so that it's not a surprise to the seller's agent. It's not a surprise to the seller. It's completely transparent and disclosed right at the onset. Okay.
Great. Love it. We had a hand up earlier. She got impatient, took her hand down. I don't know who it was. I forget now, but if you've got questions, guys, I think we've got a few minutes before we get there. Annabelle is the next one with the hand up. Annabelle, what you got?
Thank you. So what if you're representing seller and buyer?
Yeah, so Annabelle, great question. And that is a state by state, province by province disclosure document. Again, this is not a compliance class, so I can tell you how we've done it in the past. There's a disclosure document where you disclose dual agency or double ending, and it's you get the okay on it. And then sometimes there's unrepresented where you'll have to refer the client out to someone from another agency, et cetera. So it depends on your state, your board laws, your organization commission laws, et cetera, et cetera. But great question. It's about disclosure.
I guess my question would be is how do you approach, obviously now, sellers, buyers are all going to be hearing this thing like a seller will say, well, I guess I don't have to really contribute now to paying for the buyer's agent. You'll get some of those, right? And then you'll get the others that, I mean, it's up to us as real estate agents to educate sellers that no matter what, they're still going to have to pay commission. It's just a different way of how we're doing this. But in case we come across one of those that says, well, you know what, let's see if the buyers will pay the buyer's agent. And when I'm taking the listing, they say, you know what, we'll pay you your 3%. But we don't want to deal with buyer's commission at this point.
Yeah, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
So great question, Annabelle. So again, because we're in the new market, it's really about educating your client. So Mr. Seller, as we know before, that the fees are completely negotiable. My fee used to be somewhere in the range of 6%. Now it's going to be 3%. And realistically, any buyer coming through will be including something to the effect that they're going to want a fee included to be paid to their client as well. We're not advertising it because it's a decouple. I love that word, Dawn, how you said that, the decoupling of the commission. But most buyers agents working with the buyers exclusively will be asking for some type of compensation from the sale. Does that make sense, Annabelle?
Yes.
Yeah. And again, it's a new market, my friend, so that's really, and make sure you're close to your brokerage operations teams, folks, in all your states, provinces, cities, et cetera, because we're in a new changing market, right? So, but great question, Annabelle. Depending on the city or interstate, some places you actually can't sell the property to your own buyer. It has to be referred out, et cetera. But again, it's on a state by state, province by province basis.
Fantastic. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, cheers, Annabelle.
Other questions? It'd be nice if you raise your hand, but otherwise just open your mic and say something to grab our attention. I love that, Phil. I'm glad Annabelle asked that question too, because that comes up a lot is how do I, if I'm in that open house and I'm representing this seller and let's just say Alice and I looked at that property and went, damn, this is exactly what we've been looking for. At that point, the question comes up, right? How do we hand them off to somebody in our organization or some other agent? And depending upon what your state laws provide, I love that you said it could be even another agency, but it could be another agent in your company. Correct. Right? Yeah. It could be,
or you can be in a state where it's or where it's totally fine. And hey, Dawn and Allison, that's great. Let's write it up. Let's write it up, right? So, but again, it depends on the state, the board. Like, my goodness, folks, there's just so many different rules and regulations on top of this new market that we're in structure. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris. Owen, good to see you, buddy. Chris. I haven't seen you in ages.
Yes,
what's up?
A lot of things going on. Hey, I really appreciate the info here. Phil, as you open up a house and display it and go through the ranking process, how long of a time, say it's a 2,000 square foot home, how long of a time do you, try to slow them down through that process and displaying the house and ranking it? Is that something in, a house that's a conventional 2,000 square foot home, is you plan them for 30 minutes, 45 minutes conventionally?
Great question, Chris. Yes. So again, it's more of a following type process through the property with them. But what I tell them is, and again, this is through the consultation qualification. So Chris, if you're walking through a home, Chris, and you and Agnes aren't feeling it, then you know what, don't bother. Like, let's take a look at the whole home, because we want to make sure you don't miss anything, Chris. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we don't need to linger. Does that make sense, Chris?
Yeah, no, exactly. Because sometimes every client's a little different. You get some that just,
oh yeah,
they don't like the house, but they got to see every little nook and cranny.
They got to see everything. Oh, my buddy.
Go to the next one.
Don't I know it? Don't we all know
Yeah.
it? And Chris, how about this? People walk, and this is one of the coolest things about real estate. We all know this here on this call. People will go into a home and say they love it. Okay, they love it, right? And yet through their buyer tour, they'll walk through another property and they'll be totally silent. And at the end of the consultation qualification, at the end of the tour, they're like, yeah, we really like the one we said nothing in, right? You know what I mean? And it's like the one they loved, they don't even move ahead on. It's the other one that they were quite silent. So different buying signals, different behaviors, right, for different people. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Hey, Nishan has, yeah, we have Nishan's hand up.
What's up, Sean?
Oh, how you guys? How you guys
Sean,
doing?
I'm sorry.
Hey,
Sean,
good, Nishan.
yes.
How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. I just want to say thanks for having this space. I'm new to all of this, so I just joined
Welcome.
the XP. Yeah,
Amazing.
no, but hey,
Welcome.
man, I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Phil, thanks for everything, man. I just have one question. It's a really easy question. Is this being recorded, and can I get either the transcript or recording so I could take better notes? Because I was driving through most of this, and every red light I stopped and took notes.
Don?
So, Nishan, I'm going to answer this. And this is tricky because we don't normally put those out. But now that you've asked the question openly, it's going to be very challenging for me to say, sure, we'll do something for you. So what I'm going to say is, if you will, yeah, how are we going to do this? We will put out the recording. All right, I'm just going to say we're going to put out the recording. All right, you heard it
Does
here
that
first.
not
We're going to put out the
usually
recording.
happen?
We're going
Just so I can.
we're going to get that out for everybody who registered for this. So if you didn't register, you don't have your name in there. We don't have you. Okay, so but if you did register,
Yeah.
we'll get that to you. All right, we'll send you the link, guys.
Cool. Because like you guys spit so many gems. I'm just like, oh my god, I can't write all this stuff down.
Love it, Nishan. Well, thanks for qualifying your time to be here, buddy.
I actually was, I figured I'd have 3 pages of notes, but I ended up with 2 pages, and I was talking some of the time, Bill, because I was playing the guinea pig. But it was great stuff. Hey, I want to stop real quickly, guys, before we ask the next question and get one more hand answered. Make sure that for those that are here, I want to make sure that you know we've got this program coming up. That's coming up in October 2nd. So we do these events typically every 4 to 6 weeks. The next one coming up is going to be 2 hours. Larry Kendall, the genius behind Ninja Selling, just chokes me up thinking about how good it is. And then I'm going to be on the platform as well. I'll be doing some great stuff on marketing related to getting more buyer business, more seller business. How do we build the relationship such that our value is higher and we can ask for the money that we really want instead of cowering? We're going to be doing that 2-hour session. The early bird price on it is $39, and I'm going to give you something. Okay, you guys, you're the only one. So this is the early bird pricing. Early bird. This is the early bird to the early bird. Everybody's going to go online. If they go online right now, they get a $39 price for a couple weeks. But right now, you guys get to put in the code Expert VIP. You do the QR code, scan that with your phone, go to the QR code, and then just drop in the Expert VIP, and you get it for only $25. And by the way, can somebody from the team put that URL into the chat box so that everybody's got that in the chat in case they didn't pull out their phone to get the scan. All right, let's take a couple more questions. And I know some people have got to go because they plan on 1 hour and 15. I'm excited if, Phil, you've got the time to stay. Anybody
I
having
do,
any
buddy.
questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you?
Always
All
happy to, yeah, always happy to share and learn.
So Nishan, your hand is still up, but I'm assuming that's because you haven't pulled it down, not because you have a second question. Nishan's handled. Okay, he's still driving.
Oh,
I've got a question.
Oh no, that's my bad. I didn't know how to pull down my. I didn't know. I thought after my question, my hand just automatically came down.
It does not. Alicia San.
Oh, there we go.
Alicia, what do you got?
So when we are talking with buyers, what's the best way to call this buyer's agreement? I mean, do we just call it a buyer's agreement? I hate to
Yes.
use
So,
the contract, but I
Alicia,
want them to know that they're bound
it's
to it.
Alicia, right? It's Alicia.
Yes.
Hey, Alicia,
Yes.
I like to refer to it as our representation agreement and our representation strategy. Hello?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna just take that down as a note.
Yeah,
I like that.
representation strategy, representation agreement.
Which fits right in with the unrepresented and representation and the conversation you had about attorneys. I love that, by the way. It's such an easy analogy for people to get.
Yeah, yeah.
Even a clunky, hard to get along with person is going to go, yeah, there's no way I'd be represented by the other person's attorney. Of course, I want my own representation.
Yeah.
And if they're not like if you're at the open house and they're not wanting to give you the initial information, even if you kind of frame it to them, if I was showing your house, wouldn't you want to know who was coming in? What do we do then?
Yeah, great question, Alicia. And you just say, folks, unfortunately, you won't be seeing this home today unless you're willing to give your information. Okay, it's for the security and the protection of our clients. And if you can't understand that, why we're doing that, and also for my security and protection as well, because if you're there on, first of all, as you shouldn't be doing an open house on your own. You should always have someone there with you, a partner. But it's just as simple as that. Say no. Let them know why. Be polite, but folks, listen, we don't want anything bad happening, so we need to get their information. And if they're that adamant about it, don't let them in. Just say, well, unfortunately, you won't be seeing this home today.
Okay, so as long as we are not saying no based on like they have a what is it, like a disability service animal, it's okay to say no as long as we're not discriminating based on any of the.
Well, no. So this is not a compliance class or anything of that sort. Obviously, we need to be sensitive to disability animals and people with disabilities and special needs. And so, of course, we need to accommodate, folks, and if someone can't write or put their information in, then that's a special circumstance, right? So, but no, we definitely need to be accommodating to anyone that, may have a disability or special needs. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And then is this something better to also go over with our seller and say, hey, do you want to require this? And then have that kind of put in writing, or, just have them sign something, say that's a required thing because of security and safety reasons?
Referral of inquiries. Yeah. So you can definitely have that in your representation agreement. But again, check with your local brokerage operations team, whichever state you're in, et cetera, or province. But, it's a good idea. And again, when you broach the subject, Alicia, with your client, and you say, so by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when anyone that comes through your home, will make sure that during the open house that we gather their information, for your protection. Because folks, there's people that have restraining orders against people. There's litigations happening. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So you need to, again, I'm a very big on that. So there you go.
Elizabeth Oliva just added one thing with disabilities. You can write it for them. Give me your phone number. I'll write it in for you. It's easy.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah. Of course.
Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question, Stephen, buddy, good to see
Steven.
you.
Good to see you guys as well. Thank you for doing this. I had a question. So from a listing agent perspective, like I'm taking a listing that goes live on the 22nd. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. When I get calls on this, what dialogue do I use when an agent calls me and they're like, hey, are you offering a commission? We want to write an offer, but we kind of want to know, do I ask them, do I advise them to, put in the seller to credit X at the close of escrow to satisfy the buyer? Do I show those cards, or do I say, how do I approach that situation when I have a bunch of buyers calling me saying, hey, you know what, we'll do it for 2%, or is your seller paying me a commission, Or, you know, how do I answer all those questions at once? Because I'm sure I'm going to get a ton of those.
Yeah, for sure, buddy. So great question, Stephen. And so what I would do, and again, make sure you check with your local, you're compliant with your local boards and all that stuff, right? And your broker team as well, so that you're on side. But I would simply say to the buyer's agent, folks, yeah, no, you know, whatever fee you're going to be working with, just, you know, be clear and transparent in the proposal and the contract that you're bringing forth to us, so that it's outlined clearly at the beginning. And it's as simple as that. And here's the cool thing, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So second question to that, because I got I took the listing at 6%. I got the agreement to offer out with the form that the seller agrees that they're willing to pay a compensation to a buyer's broker at 2.5%. I got this done like 2 weeks ago, kind of when everything was still blurry. So now I'm trying to understand, where am I and what do I do? And like, I'm kind of uncertain, and that kind of clouds me and like doesn't let me.
Yeah, no, for sure, Stephen.
I'm like worried at night thinking about how I'm going to handle this.
Yeah, great question, Stephen. So I would definitely defer to my broker team. Are you with? What company are you with?
So I'm under, I believe, Don, right? I'm with EXP.
Okay, cool. So I would definitely refer to you're in Texas?
No. I'm in California.
California. Okay, yeah. I would definitely go into the broker room and explain the circumstances and talk to your broker team about this. But when dealing with your buyer's agents calling you about the property, Stephen, I would just let them know, make sure that you're very transparent in your proposal, that you're going to be sending us, what fee, it is that you want negotiated, et cetera. Just tell them to be transparent, but confirm with your broker team.
Got it. Thank you.
My pleasure, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, well handled, Phil. I think the best thing in general, and again, I'm under the same disclosure that Phil's under, check with your broker team. I think the best thing is that the feeling behind it is just include that in your offer. Just include that in your offer. Just include that in your offer. Whatever it is, just include that in your offer. What are we going to have? Just include that in your offer. I mean, put the burden back on that as part of the agreement coming forward to your sellers.
Don, you know what? Thanks for saying that, because you just reminded me of something. So, folks, when we would have a property that was on the market forever, okay, and it, pre new market times where there was a cooperating fee marketed and stuff, we would put in bonuses. Okay, so we would say the buyer's broker will be represent in this proposal of ownership, the buyer's brokerage is also looking for an additional 1.5% on top of the fee that's offered. Okay, and that's for properties that whatever were of particular interest or on the market forever and such. So again, it's just an ask, and it's about being transparent in that ask. Okay.
Yeah, love that. So Jeanette, I see your hand. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, first of all, Phil, thank you, because I want to get everybody that's still here, and we're going long. So I want to make sure that everybody that's still here acknowledges this guy. Let's put our hands together. We clap him in. Let's clap him out. So Phil, you may be able to stick around for another second, but thank you so much, my buddy. Allison and I, our whole expert partners team, we loved having you here. We loved having you here. I'll open it up and if you still have a second, I'll let Jeanette do that.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm happy to see this through. So
okay,
I learned, guys and gals, we're all learning right now. Just so you know, I just spent a couple of days with leadership of a top real estate company globally, and we're all learning. And this was from different companies, different people were sharing, and we're all learning. Like, this is a new market, folks. So that's why you got to defer to your organized real estate, your commissions, your councils, your organizations, NAR, your compliance teams, right? And no one has all the answers yet, because this is a new market. But what I can tell you is 45 days from now, this is old news. Remember that. Okay.
Absolutely agree with you 1000%. Keep the faith, guys. You can do this. You know how to do this. If you have questions in the moment that you're, in the moments, call a friend, call your broker would be your best shot. Call your broker and make sure that you're staying in compliance. You do not want the benefit or the lack of benefit of making a mistake in this next time. But Phil, you're absolutely dead on. Once you've done this a couple times, it's going to be old hat. In a month and a half from now, we're not even discussing this anymore. 2 months, 3 months at the very most. I mean, even if you're doing a few deals, you're automatically going to be equipped to do this again and again and again. Listen, guys, we are excited for you to be here with us. Thank you for being making your day around this. This isn't going away for a little while. We're going to keep bringing you more stuff. Larry and I will be talking about this on October 2nd. And if you didn't grab the code, I'm giving you, first of all, the QR code, and second of all, the discount code. And it says Doug, but I know that's not Doug Harrington because I see him in a different place looking his dapper self. Jeanette, what do you got for Phil this afternoon?
Thanks for the opportunity. I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and in the conversation, the discussion was, I said, "Oh, well, you know, bring your offer." She said, "Well, to me, that means that it's uncertain, and if it starts that way now, that it will be that way all through the negotiations." And I have a lot of sellers who are buyers who are like me, that they want to know exactly what it is they're doing. So I was exploring that. I'm not put off by it, and I helped her to see, well, what if they miss a good deal? And so little things that I was thinking about were, say, well, what fee are you wanting? And said, well, go ahead and put that in the offer, so that I can tell them that. So that was an aha that I got, you know, just as we're talking through here. So thank you, Phil. But talk to me more about that. I would love to hear. What we have to do is we have to kill the uncertainty in the buyer's realtor as much as we have to kill it in the buyer. How do we? So
Doug, hey, Doug.
Okay, I'll trade.
Okay, so Doug, I appreciate you. You know, I know you've now shown our property at 123 ABC Street twice. I really appreciate that, and you know, we want to do a deal with you. So yeah, let's go ahead. What's it going to take for your buyers to move ahead with this?
Okay.
Okay. What's it going to take for your buyers to move ahead with this, Janet?
Jeanette, yeah, Jeanette.
Oh, well, you know, my fee is 3%.
I appreciate that. So why don't you just include your fee in your offer, and let's put this together. Okay, Jeanette?
Excellent.
Okay. Solicit offers, folks. If you're not, by the way, call people after they've shown your property. If they've shown it twice and you're not getting an offer, call them and say, hey, where do we need to be to make this happen? What do we need to do? You know, ask for the business. All right. Claudia Habibi.
Hi, everybody.
Sure, Habibi.
I just wanted to share because I did just had that experience, me representing the buyer. Prior to that, I had that question about how do I approach the seller's agent in regards to the commission, right? And I spoke with Bettina, who's my number one to go. I'm actually under their team. And we had a long conversation, and she said, well, you know what? Be straightforward and ask them. And so I also represent sellers. So I also had that question. Okay, so how do I tackle the same question that they had earlier? How do I tackle those agents when they call me and ask me if my seller is paying the commission? So one thing that was clear to me is that's a discussion also that you kind of have to have with your seller, whether he's willing to allow you to tell the people or the agents, the buyer agents, that he's willing to pay that 3% or that commission. And that I still have like a question mark on how to handle that. But in this situation, I went straight forward and I asked the seller's agent, me representing the buyer at this occasion, and I said, hey, I'm moving forward with the offer. I wanted to know if the seller is willing to pay the buyer's commission. And she had the permission, I guess. She said, yes, he has authorized me to let you know that he will pay the 3%. So I got my answer there. So I was able to go back to my buyer and say, okay, commission is taken care of by the seller, and everything was great, right? Now, with that said, that conversation that I had about when I'm representing the seller, if the seller gives me permission to let everybody know that he's gonna pay, and obviously we know all the rules not to advertise it and all that.
Yeah.
So it's one of one-on-one cases when they call you on the phone. So if you have the permission from the seller to tell them, I will be covering that, and we agree that he's willing to cover, let's say, the 3%, or even if he says, I will only do the 2%, it's okay to go ahead and let them know from the get-go, or do I still let them write it on the offer and like request it?
Yeah, so great question, Claudia. You know, you're going to want to educate your seller right at the get-go that most buyers agents or people showing the home will be asking for their fee within the offer, okay? And that you would, you know, that that's just going to be kind of the way things are going to be happening. So the fee is going to be included in the offer, even though there isn't a fee marketed per such, a cooperating fee that's advertised. The fee will be in the proposal of ownership / offer, and that you know, most buyers agents and agents showing the home, when they decide to write on your property and move ahead with an offer, will be including that in the offer. Okay. And again, having that kind of conversation at the beginning. And then of course we want to encourage all buyers agents to bring their offers and just tell them, listen, just put your fee in the offer, and you know, I'm going to do my best to get you an acceptance or a counter. It's as simple as that, right? And what's going to happen, Claudia, and what we've got to understand is that sellers that aren't going to cooperate per se, or not cooperate because we can't cooperate anymore, but that are going to be, you know, just wanting to only have that you know, keep minimizing their fee. They're going to be kind of like, it's just going to be a different environment, okay? And it's a professionals market that we're in. And I was going to say something, but I realized it probably wouldn't be compliant, so I just X'd myself on that. But it's, you know, get everything in writing and negotiate. John Croft, thanks for that. That's right. Just write it, bring the offer, let's go. It's just a point of negotiation. That's all. And, you know, a friend of ours, Leo, keeps saying that, you know, entrepreneurship will rise to the top, and you know, people are entrepreneurial in business. It's, you know, again, in 45 days from now, we're not going to be having these conversations anymore, I believe.
No, and I think it's going to be even better. Things
I do too. I agree. Yeah, I think it's going to be better.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, before we go on to the last question, and I'm going to make this the last question from Alicia. I did want to point to something that was in the chat box, because our genius friend there, Andrew Smith, just said it's the same as the question about including appliances, windows, window coverings. I mean, it's like anything. What do? Just put it in the freaking offer. Put it in the offer, right? This is not strange, guys, except that we're making it strange. Put it in the offer. It's a very simple process. Okay, so Alicia's last question. I know, Celeste, we just can't go on and on and on and on. We could, but we've got other things to do today. You know, we actually have appointments. So, all right, Celeste is going to be our last. Alicia, then Celeste. Let's keep it short, guys. I want to let this event come to a quiet close.
Okay, so before in seller presentations, I was always able to show the sellers. The range of buyer's agent commission that was given in the MLS, because it was listed for similar properties that were sold. How am I going to do that to give them an idea so that they can be competitive?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know what, Alicia, right? It's Alicia?
Yes.
Here's the kind of crazy thing that's going to happen, I believe. There will be some sellers that unfortunately aren't, you know, their agents maybe don't have as much control or communication with them to let them know, that will reject everything. And that's cool. But what we're going to see is that we're going to see average days on market. We're going to be, you know, talking with colleagues and such, and we'll see that, okay, so the people that, you know, are negotiating the fee tend to sell much quicker than the people that are steadfast on their model per se. But again, you're right. The data isn't going to be there anymore on the co-op side. So, but the days on market will speak volumes, if that makes sense. So for the people that are very stubborn or just don't see the value, you know, kind of like in certain markets, some of the less, how do we say this, discounted models per se. Again, not to be anti-competitive because fees are, you know, negotiable, and, you know, whatever fee you offer is what it is. But there are some circumstances that I've seen where some discount models, the days on market were extensively longer for some reason. I don't know why that is, but they were just extensively longer in analyzing different markets and models across North America. So you can come to your own conclusion on that, but.
Sure,
That's
thank
awesome.
you.
All right, Celeste, you're up and you're closing it out. Hit it out of the park.
I'm going to
Oh,
wrap this
Celeste.
up by telling you, I just learned this morning that in addition to your compensation agreement that you might put with your offer, your brokerage may also require a second document to tie the contract to your compensation agreement. So before you put something out there, my recommendation is reach out to your state brokerage and ask them if there's any additional documentation that needs to be included.
Great stuff. So, and you know what? Have grace, folks, because you know what? Even the brokerage teams, they're, you know, it's a new market, right? So have some grace and some compassion because not everybody's going to have all the answers yet. We will soon enough, but you know, as we have this transition, you know, I think it's nothing but opportunity. So that's my take. Everybody, thank you very much for having me today. It's been an absolute pleasure and a
Phil.
privilege. Dawn, Allison, everybody in the team at Expert Partners. Woo! Awesome. Now go out there and
Bam.
sell some houses, everybody. Okay?
If you need anything, guys, let us know how we can support you, help you in any way, shape, or form. Communicate through the texts and the emails that are going out to you, and we will respond back. Love to see you on October 2nd, if not sooner. Take care, everybody. Have an awesome day and a great week.